Hey everyone, welcome to another Angry Artist podcast. For those who have been following these podcasts, you might have noticed that I like to talk about stuff that I've experienced myself and mistakes that I could have prevented if somebody told me otherwise. So why not talk about something that encompasses all of art, and that is color theory. Now, color theory is something I could probably make thousands of videos to talk about. There's just so many different ways to go about it. This will probably lead into more videos of me talking about color. Now, color, the most common question that pops up is what's right and wrong when it comes to colors? There are a lot of tutorials out there, not going to name any names, not going to show any of examples, that really starts making formulas about which colors you want to use for skin and which colors you want to use for other things and all that. You take a basic color and then you add another one and you get the results and you really get the point. In this podcast, I really wanted to talk about something that might change everyone's perception of what color is. I would be lying if there are such things as what's right or wrong, but there are situations where there are clearly correct colors and clearly wrong colors. Now, I'm gonna have to explain that in a short video, but this is something you might have to study on your own time and observe reality and how colors work. So let me put it out there right now. There are formulas when it comes to color. However, anything beyond fundamental lighting principles, I would say, does not apply to art. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, "Oh man, Alex is gonna give me formulas and give me the correct way of doing things," I really can't. And the reality is that the physics of light is so complex that it would be impossible for me to explain this within one video. So what do I really mean? Okay, let's take it from step one. Our reality has rules, and you could say it's a formula when it comes to picking out the right colors when you're trying to paint reality. Without shadow of a doubt, when you go anywhere in reality, there are always going to be the right colors. And what I mean by this is, if you are in Canada under overcast lighting, your skin tone is probably going to be the same as if you went to Australia and there's an overcast lighting. There is clearly a way to put on paper what happens when your skin is hit by overcast lighting or otherwise. If you want to learn what the science behind color is, I suggest going on schoolism.com and check out Sam Nielsen's lighting and color sessions. I promise you I'm not being paid by Bobby Chu and the rest of Imaginism to recommend that. Sam Nielsen has really captured most, if not all, the science behind lighting that helps you apply it in art. Now that we got that out of the way, we have to understand that lighting in reality versus doing it in art is sometimes relevant, but not all the time. And that's really key. I will say it right now. Any formula that you're being taught on any website or any artist is their own interpretation of how colors are. So if they tell you, hey, here's a skin tone, You could use that, but that's not the universal answer. The only universal answer, again, is if you're trying to paint reality and you want absolutely realistic lighting. That's where the science comes in. Any other formula do not apply and are not always going to work for you. So, really, what is right and wrong when it comes to color and art? The answer, as with other things in art, because it's very subjective, it is entirely up to context and what the artist prefers, as well as what the artwork is meant to do. Ultimately, I feel no matter what kind of art you're trying to portray, whatever style you're going for, the underlying purpose of art is to portray a message. It doesn't matter if you're in illustration, fine arts, animation, etc. You are using the tools and media at your disposal in order to tell a message. Every single aspect of art must be relevant when it comes to portraying that message. Now, how you do it is up to your interpretation of reality and otherwise. So, colors are just one tool, one aspect that you can use in order to portray your message. So, let me give you an example. If you've watched noir films such as the old Metropolis, not the anime, even though I love it, anyways, you might have noticed, of course, their technology hinders them from having color. It's all black and white. However, the noir films seem to work. Nobody really thinks, man, I wish those colors would be there. It's because the lack of color is also a tool to portray your message. So a lot of those silent movies, the noir films, despite the fact that there's literally no colors, no hues going on, they still seem to work and it fits the mood. That is probably the easiest way I can tell people how and why colors don't need to be formulaic if it gets your message out. Now, if I were to, let's say, take Steven Universe, the cartoon, and take out all the colors, it no longer works because part of the appeal, part of the function is to have those colors. If you want to check out screenshots of it, just Google it, you'll see what I mean. Now, these are the two extremes that I like to use as examples. One is the complete lack of color, which works, and the other, which are cartoons, have a ton of colors, which seems to work. Yet there's no consistent formula between those two, but it's up to context and function. If you want even more proof that color is really, really wide open, you might want to check out fine artists, the master painters. They're painting very realistic figures, and if you look at any of the top fine artists in history, you'll think, wow, these are all realistic. But when you check them closely, when you study them closely, so for example, William Bouguereau versus Rembrandt, both, I would say, are really darn good. However, their color usage are completely different, despite the fact that both artists are essentially trying to portray realism. However, the key is they're portraying realism in their own way. And that's really what I'm trying to get you to understand. Both artists see the world differently, the same world differently. And that's why, despite the fact that their colors are vastly different, possibly due to limitations of the paints available to them back then, their colors seem to work and it portrays a certain mood. They fulfill their function, therefore their colors work. No formula required, nobody's telling them, darn, they have to have a certain skin tone or else it's not skin. Now, the last thing I want to mention before I end this podcast is an introduction to what I will talk about in the future. So I really didn't answer the question of what's right or wrong, because really there's no way of saying what's right or wrong as long as it gives the purpose that you're trying to portray. Now, within a piece of artwork, how do you determine what's right or wrong? And let me just give a very brief description of what I will talk about in the future, and that's the idea that color is relative to each other. So I've stated that colors can work as long as it's appealing to each other and it shows off your message. What makes the colors within your artwork work together is color relativity. Every color you put down will be compared to the colors in the whole artwork. And that's the most important part in understanding what colors work together. Once you get the idea that there are no real formula outside of the physics of lighting. I hope that intrigues you and that you'll look into the future when I make more of these videos. But for now, I hope this was helpful in introducing my mentality of how colors work and open your mind when it comes to that aspect of art. Anyways, thank you for listening and I'll see you next time.